Chapter 1. The Emperor's Mindset in a Modern World. Let's start with a question. What comes to mind when you hear the word emperor? Maybe it's a man in a red cloak with a gold laurel crown, a leader of legions, a marble palace, power, prestige, maybe even ego. But when it comes to Marcus Aurelius, the most famous Stoic emperor of all time, the image is very different. Because Marcus wasn't just an emperor, he was a student of life. A man who ruled the Roman Empire, yes, but who also ruled his mind with more care than he ruled the world. And now, in the year 2025, with more distractions, noise, division, and pressure than ever before, you have to ask yourself, what would it look like to think like a Roman emperor today? Not in power, in perspective, not in conquest, in clarity. What if the mindset that governed the greatest empire in history could help you govern the chaos of your life right now? Because let's be honest, we're not living in ancient Rome, but we are living in an empire of noise, an empire of comparison, of anxiety, of opinion, of algorithms. And the world is not asking you to rule it, but it is demanding that you learn how to rule yourself. And that's exactly what Marcus did. That's what the Stoics believed. They believed that greatness didn't start with wealth or war or applause. It started in the mind, with discipline, with awareness, with the ability to stay calm when the world tries to pull you in every direction at once. So in this video, this modern meditation, we're going to explore how to think like Marcus Aurelius in the age of TikTok, news cycles, short attention spans, and constant pressure. And it begins here, with the choice to stop reacting and start reflecting. Because if you want to think like a Roman emperor in 2025, you don't need a throne. You need a mindset. A mindset that is trained, focused, clear, and deliberate. One that isn't swayed by every headline or hijacked by every impulse. So let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this. Who rules your mind right now? Is it you, or is it every notification, every opinion, every urge that passes through you? Do you lead your thoughts, or do your thoughts lead you? Because Marcus didn't become a great emperor by mastering the world. He became a great emperor by mastering himself. And in 2025, that's your battlefield too. It's not ancient Rome anymore, but the empire still exists. It just lives in your mind now. Chapter 2. Digital distractions and the death of presence. Let's be real. If Marcus Aurelius lived today, he wouldn't be dodging arrows or betrayal in the Senate. He'd be dodging Instagram reels, doom scrolling, and group chats blowing up at 2 in the morning. And honestly, that might be harder. Because in ancient Rome, distraction was loud but limited. In 2025, it's endless. It's curated. It's seductive. It knows your name, your fears, your triggers. It whispers, just one more scroll, one more update, one more like. But here's the problem. Every time you chase that momentary dopamine hit, you lose the very thing Marcus Aurelius built his empire on. Presence. You cannot lead your mind, your work, your life, if you are constantly being pulled into everything except the moment you're actually living. Marcus once wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Simple, hard, because today, your attention is the product. Every platform wants it. Every app fights for it. You're not just a user anymore, you're the currency. And in that war for your attention, the modern Stoic, the emperor of their own mind, must become a warrior of presence. Let me tell you a quick story. There's a man named Alex, mid-30s, smart, successful, always plugged in. He wakes up and checks his email before brushing his teeth, scrolls through 3 social apps before breakfast, answers messages during workouts, watches videos during dinner. He's always connected, but he feels more disconnected than ever. Why? Because he's never truly anywhere. He's never in his breath, never in his step, never in his thought, never in the people in front of him. He's present in data, but absent in life. Now, be honest. How much of that is you? Because we all have a little Alex in us. We've all traded attention for stimulation. But what we forget is that attention is power. And every time you give it away to something meaningless, you weaken the most important empire you'll ever rule. the space between your ears. Modern Stoic implementation, presence training. If Marcus lived today, he'd still journal, but maybe instead of papyrus, it would be a notes app. Still, the purpose is the same: clarity, stillness, control. So here's how you can think like a Roman emperor in a distracted world. First, start your day without a screen, not even for 5 minutes. Breathe, reflect, ask yourself, what am I choosing to focus on today? Second, build digital boundaries. 1 hour a day with no phone, no exceptions. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Third, replace the scroll with something real. Reading, journaling, walking, silence. This isn't about self-help, it's about self-honor. Because Marcus didn't sit down and say, how do I go viral? He asked, what is in my control? What is my duty? How can I be better today than I was yesterday? Those questions still work. They just require a moment of stillness. So here's what I want you to ask yourself right now. How often do I reach for stimulation instead of reflection? What would it feel like to be here, fully here, without needing to escape into distraction? Who could I become if I reclaimed my focus, my time, my mind? Because the modern Roman emperor doesn't need armies. He needs presence. That's the battlefield, and that's where your power begins. Chapter 3. Emotional control is the new strength. Let's talk about something we rarely admit. Most of us are ruled by our emotions, not in the dramatic movie-style breakdown kind of way, but in subtle, daily ways that guide our decisions, fuel our arguments, hijack our focus, and sabotage our peace. Anger when we're disrespected, anxiety when we feel behind, jealousy when we see someone winning, shame when we fail, frustration when things don't go exactly how we planned. And here's what's wild. Marcus Aurelius felt all of that too. He was a father, a general, a ruler of millions. He lost children. He buried friends. He endured betrayal, sickness, and war. And yet he still wrote, "You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you." Now pause and really let that sink in. It doesn't have to upset you. Not because you're numb, but because you are in charge of your interpretation, not the situation. That's what emotional control means to a Stoic. Not repression, but command. It's not about bottling it all up. It's about directing the emotional energy towards something useful. You don't need to be cold. You need to be clear. And clarity only comes when you step back from the emotional reaction and ask, is this emotion serving me or enslaving me? Let's talk about a modern scenario. Imagine this. You're driving. Someone cuts you off. No blinker. Nearly hits your car. You feel it. The spike, the heat, the inner explosion. Now, what do? Do you scream, flip them off, speed up to teach them a lesson? Or do you breathe and realize this moment does not deserve to take over your peace? Marcus said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." In other words, don't match energy. Master it. Here's the modern truth no one tells you. Emotional control is the new strength. It's rarer than ever, and more powerful than any flex, quote, or hustle. Because in a culture that constantly tells you to feel everything, very few people learn to channel those feelings into clarity, into calm, into grounded action. So how do you do it? Modern Stoic emotional practice. Try this. When you feel triggered, pause. Literally pause. 3 seconds of silence can change everything. Ask yourself, is this mine to carry? Or is this just passing through me? Journal the emotion later. Write it out like you're writing to a mentor. What would Marcus say if he read it? And finally, train your responses like a martial artist, with repetition, with awareness, with control. Because here's the truth, you cannot control other people, but you can control the way they access your mind. Marcus didn't write Meditations because he was always calm. He wrote it because he was learning how to stay centered in a chaotic world. Just like you. Stoic reflection. Questions. What emotion has been controlling me lately? How often do I react instead of respond? Who would I be if I chose clarity over chaos every time? Because real strength is not in domination, it's in discipline. And discipline of the mind, emotional command, is what separates those who are tossed around by life from those who lead themselves through it. That's how emperors think. And that's how you will think too, if you're willing to train. Chapter 4. Values over validation. Living by inner standards. Let's get brutally honest for a moment. How much of your life is built around being seen, not being real, not being disciplined, not even being fulfilled, just being seen? Likes, shares, approval, applause. We live in a world where validation has become currency and silence is mistaken for failure. But Marcus Aurelius, the emperor of the most powerful empire in the world, wrote in his private journal, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." He said that almost 2,000 years ago. And here we are, still measuring ourselves by how other people react to us. So let's ask the question, what does it mean to live by values instead of validation? Because here's the truth. If you want to think like a Roman emperor in 2025, you need to stop living for claps and start living for conviction. Let's paint a scenario. Imagine two people. One wakes up and immediately checks their phone. They scroll, post, compare. Their day rises and falls by the reaction they get. The other wakes up and opens a journal. They ask, what kind of person do I want to be today? They write down 3 values: patience, discipline, honesty. Their day is about being, not appearing. Now, who do you think ends the day with more clarity? Exactly. Because when you chase validation, you hand over your peace to people who don't even know who they are. But when you live by values, especially ones you define for yourself, you build unshakable self-respect. And no one can take that from you. Marcus Aurelius ruled millions. He had power, fame, wealth. But do you know what he reminded himself of constantly? That none of it meant anything if he wasn't living in alignment with virtue. Not perfection. Virtue. Not public opinion. Character. Modern Stoic application, the value alignment ritual. Here's how you make this real. Step 1. Define your top 3 values. Not the ones that sound good. The ones that, if you died tomorrow, you'd want etched on your headstone. Step 2. Every morning ask, how can I live one of these values today? Just one. Small, real, grounded. Step 3. At night, reflect. Not on how people saw you, but on how closely you lived your values. Did you speak with courage? Did you act with integrity? That's it. No algorithm required. Stoic reflection. Questions. What am I doing today purely for attention? And does it reflect who I really want to be? If no one ever applauded me again, what would I still be proud of doing? What value do I need to bring back to the center of my life? No matter the cost. Because emperors aren't defined by their fan base. They're defined by their foundations. And if you want to walk like one, if you want to think like one, you have to be willing to be misunderstood for the sake of being aligned. You have to choose principles over popularity, depth over noise, honor over hype. And that might mean fewer likes, but it also means more peace. That's how Marcus lived. That's how Stoics think. And that's the quiet strength that could change your entire life. Chapter 5. Memento Mori. Using death to sharpen your life. There's a phrase carved into the bones of Stoic philosophy. It's short, it's ancient, it's uncomfortable. Memento Mori. Remember you must die. Not exactly the motivational quote you'd slap on a coffee mug. But let's talk about it. Because if you want to think like a Roman emperor in 2025, you have to think about death. Not in a grim, morbid, fear-based way, but in a clear, courageous, power-giving way. Because here's what Marcus Aurelius believed. Remembering death makes you stronger at life. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." In modern terms, if today was the last day you had, how would you live it? Would you scroll for 3 hours? Would you argue with strangers online? Would you keep playing it safe because you're scared of what they'll think? Or would you show up, speak the truth, make the move, forgive the person, build the thing you've been too afraid to start? Memento Mori is not about being scared of dying. It's about being tired of not really living. Let's get practical. Think about how much time we waste worrying about what doesn't matter. Imaginary arguments, future scenarios that may never happen, past regrets on loop stress about things that are totally outside our control. Now imagine if someone told you, you've got 1 year left. That's it. What would change? Your priorities? Your relationships? Your routines? Your attitude? Would you still scroll through people's highlight reels and wonder if you're enough? Or would you, finally, live like someone who knows they are running out of time? Modern memento mori practice. Here's how you can make this real, without spiraling into existential dread. Every morning, remind yourself, I do not know how long I have, but I do know I have today. Every week, ask, if I died next year, what would I regret not doing? Then put one of those things into motion. No delay. Write your last 5 list. The last 5 people you'd want to speak to. The last 5 things you'd want to say. The last 5 acts that would define your legacy. Then, live like you mean it. Because here's the brutal truth no one wants to face. You are dying. Every single day. And you don't get to choose when it ends. But you do get to choose how awake you are before it does. Stoic reflection. Questions. What have I been postponing out of fear or laziness that I would deeply regret never doing? If I knew I had only 1 year left, what would I stop caring about instantly? Who do I need to become while I still have the chance? Because that's the Stoic version of living well, not chasing pleasure, but living on purpose. Marcus Aurelius did not fear death. He feared a life wasted in trivial things. And if you're honest with yourself, you probably do too. So remember, the emperor doesn't live forever, but the way he lives, with honor, intention, clarity, that echoes far beyond the grave. So wake up, not in fear, but in focus. You do not have time to waste. You never did. Chapter 6, Final Reflection, Becoming the Emperor of Your Own Life. So here we are. You've walked through the empire of your mind. You've wrestled with distraction, emotion, validation, mortality. And now, it's time to ask yourself the one question Marcus Aurelius lived by. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. In other words, what kind of emperor do you want to be? Not the kind that rules people, the kind that rules yourself. Because that's the truth no one tells you about Stoicism. It was never about power. It was about presence, clarity, mastery. In 2025, you don't wear a laurel crown. You wear headphones, deadlines, expectations, notifications. But the challenge is the same. Will you let the world rule your thoughts, or will you choose to lead from within? Let's tie it all together. When distraction floods your mind, remember Marcus's stillness. When emotion rages through you, remember your power to pause. When the world screams for your attention, remember to return to your values. When fear whispers, not yet, remember that death waits for no one. And when life feels chaotic, messy, painful, uncontrollable, remember that your mind is your fortress. You are already the emperor. You just need to claim the throne. Let me leave you with a modern challenge. A Stoic call to arms. Modern emperor's daily practice morning. Set your intentions with purpose. Ask, what does honor look like for me today? Midday, recenter with stillness. Take 5 minutes of silence. No screens, no noise. Just breathe. Evening, reflect honestly. Ask, did I rule myself well today? Or did I let the world decide who I was? Do this every day, without fail, and you won't need to control the world because you'll control you. Final self-reflection. Questions. Where in my life am I still waiting to take full responsibility? What would my life look like if I lived by Stoic principles, not once in a while, but every day? What legacy would I leave if I ruled my own mind like a Roman emperor ruled an empire? Because the truth is, your empire isn't made of stone. It's made of choices, habits, thoughts, actions. And you are not just a citizen of this modern world. You are the architect of your inner kingdom. So choose wisely, live deliberately, lead with discipline. And if someday your grandchildren ask, what did you do in the age of distraction, division, and noise? You'll be able to say, with calm and conviction, I ruled myself, just like a Roman emperor would.